All right, we are out. There's a hawk talking business. We're out 3 miles in on our river. Hold up. Come on. I'm gonna spray you down on our 6-mile run the day after the race, and we're gonna talk about not only single speeding and yeah, I gotta stay nice and cool. This is the cutest thing, I think. And about racing or just riding gravel with flat bars, and also with bigger tires and the differences. And I go over single speed, like power and cadence numbers. Got a lot of little things. Here we go. Okay, that should take it. We got to run with the wind uphill, and if you're a cyclist or runner, you know that that's hot. So okay, so the race was yesterday. It was the Gonzo Graveler, and I was expecting to take about 4 hours. That'd be nice, and I did a 4:03 with one stop to pee and one time to it's 62 miles, by the way, 100K, and it's a easy rollout. It's real slow. I'm sure everybody's like, this is ruining our average. But you got to have controlled rollout out of the town square. And single speeding, we'll talk about that first, was actually easier than I thought it would be. And it's because you can only go so fast, so there's a lot more rest built in. You do end up being slower. I think if I was geared, I probably would have taken about 25 minutes off my time. I did a 62 miler on that same bike, geared, a few weeks ago, and I forgot, like 3:35 or something instead of 4 hours. But anyway, so I'm pedaling along with a tailwind at one point, and I'm like, I can only go so fast. And so I sat up, riding no hands, just chilling, relaxing, riding along. And I'm like, this is wild. Oh, a neighbor's walking their dog. Okay. I'll be right back. All right, we're back. Made it through the gauntlet. And so, just finishing is kind of a goal. And I won, but I was also the only one. So I got last place when I think about it, first and last place. And a lot of this came about because I used to single speed a long time ago, and I loved it, and even did fixie. I did the MS 150 on my single speed, same gearing, by the way, and on an old road bike, and really old road bike, like a 1985 or something. And when I was doing the 400-miler gravel race and my rear derailleur blew up, and then I was able to go along for a while on single speed, I was like, oh yeah, I remember, dude, this is fun, man. And I had my mind set on finishing the race, a shortened version of the race, probably maybe like 150 miles or so single speed, because I was like, I know how to do this. And then my rear derailleur completely blew up, and then I was like, oh man. So I felt like maybe like I had some unfinished business where I wanted to I was forced to do single speed for a little bit, and then I was like, man, I know how to do this. This is fun. I'd like to do a little bit more. So I think that's why we're at where we're at. And so I'm riding along, and in the race, well, first thing you do is you do training single speed, and don't shift. So you just ride your regular bike and then you don't shift. And then after a while, you figure out, I'd say over a month, like how to really stay in one gear, not shift, and what gear would probably work out for you. Sorry about the wind. This is an example of the wind yesterday. We had a strong headwind. Had about, I think it peaked at like 15 miles an hour. And then I went into the race with my fingers crossed because I was like, dude, there are some big hills on this race. But with single speeding, you have sitting, standing, and walking. And there's this other gear where you pedal furiously and then coast. I pedal furiously and then coast because you're at the top end of what you can do. My maximum cadence yesterday was 108. And then you learn to climb using your whole body. And so it's an incredible workout. So the race ended up being less of a race. It's like a half of a race. It's like 50% race. Because you can only go so fast. You know? You can't be like, man, what if I went harder at this one point? There is no going harder. I think if I went like all out, I would have taken like 3 minutes off my time. Instead of 4:03, I would have been like 3:58 with the gearing. Maybe. I'd have to change gearing and then you're stuck. You can't. So it really forces you to be in the moment and just be there. And then it's a conversation starter. You know, people are like, whoa, cool. Single speed, huh? And when I finished, the race director, I wish we caught it on video. Kai ran to go get his camera, his phone, to video it. And right before he started, the race director was going on, this guy built up his own single speed. Look at this thing. And it's got flat bars and aero bars. Like, wow. And I'm serious, like, he really was like going on for a little bit about like how cool it was. Plus the bike is 30 years old, you know. And then I was like, why? But I built my own single speed. And I'm like, oh yeah, you can actually go buy these. I didn't think about that. I've built probably 3 single speeds now, maybe 4. And just out of an old bike, you know. And if you want to do this, you have to have sliding dropouts. If your bike doesn't have sliding dropouts, then you can't adjust chain tension. So then you could totally work around it. You buy what I did, because this one doesn't have sliding dropouts. You buy a chain tensioner, which looks kind of like a derailleur. And that puts tension on the chain. And then your bike is kind of like the BMX bike that you grew up on, you know? So there was one time I had to walk on the steepest hill. It was probably 12% grade. I don't know. The problem was, more than anything, is it was loose and really rubbly. And there was a big chance of my rear tire spinning out. And if my rear tire spun out while I'm pressing that hard on a gear and wrenching the handlebars, then I'd go over hard. And I was near the top. So I was like, well, I'm just going to walk it. And then I was with 2 other guys that were geared at that time. and I caught back up with him. It took like a minute and a half or something, so to catch up. So I'd say it added maybe a minute to my time just once. I mean, that's not bad for all the joy and simplicity of it. So the way the race went down was, let me add to this. So that's single speeding. I think as we get older, you know, you're looking for more adventure and stuff, but the big goal of all this fitness stuff is to stay strong. Makes staying strong fun. And single speed is about power, you know, and upper body as well. And so I think it's a really cool way as you get older to stay strong all over. So maybe I'll keep doing it and also make friends. Okay, I'm gonna stop and get a little bit of fuel here. And with the so with the rest built in, you're able to fuel like I'm doing now, and drink a whole lot easier because there's nothing else you can do at that time. And also there's a chance, much better chance you'll be on the podium because there'll only be you or maybe 3 other people. That's the most you usually see. And I think it's, if the race, once you get to like 60 miles, doing it single speed, even though it's not ultra distance, you're starting to get into the ultra category of stuff. And I define that by the breaking point where people quit asking like how fast you were, or what place did you get, or how long did, or what was your speed, what was your time. Instead, they're impressed by the distance. So if you run a 50 miler or a 100 miler, people are like, whoa, holy crap. How far? When they say things like, I wouldn't enjoy driving my car that far. That's pretty cool. And so time-wise, it's not really an ultra, but as far as like effort and coolness, it's kind of like doing ultra. In that it's wild, like it's really cool. And you say, I biked 62 miles single speed. And here's a little bit of our headwind. And then it's kind of like, well, holy crap. Usually somebody else will say, hey, check this guy out. He did that race single speed. Like, holy crap. All the 62 miler? You're like, yeah. Wow. And then eventually they get around to like, how long did it take you? It's like, oh, I don't know. The cool thing is, freaking did it. Anyway, so now we're gonna mix in flat bar and fat tires. So up until now, the past couple races, I've been riding a Vast, and I can fit a 50 in the front, but the biggest I can fit is a 42 in the rear. And with all this realization that fatter tires make you faster. Oh, and shout out to Kai. He was the fastest, youngest person. He's 20. Next oldest person was like 24. And the problem, he keeps getting flats in his rear tire. So he got flats. In a way, he had to stop 3 times to air up the flat, make sure it sealed, unplug it, you know, all that stuff. He said it happened at mile 45. And we got to really work with the bike sponsor, somebody help us arrange get a frame. I really like the State frame, it's pretty cool. That'll hold a bigger rear tire, because when you're racing and you're up at the front, you don't get to choose your line, and the skinnier your tire, the more likely it is to flat. So there's that. And then the like, think about it, you hardly ever flat mountain bike. And he's gotten rear flat after rear flat after rear flat after rear flat. So the other thing is speed and comfort. It adds a little bit of suspension, a little bit of speed to be a little bit plumper and softer. I'm gonna walk this section. And yeah, there's that. And then flat bar is really interesting in that I wouldn't have done this except the Nishiki, because my bike was in the shop getting repaired and I wanted to ride a bike. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll ride the Nishiki. And the Nishiki has flat bars on it, because Kai was using it as his high school commuter last. And so I started riding it with flat bars. I threw my aero bars off the Vast, the regular drop bar gravel bike. And I had a realization that, dude, flat bars might be faster. You smell something over there? Garbage? No, nasty. There's construction and guys throw out their food sometimes, or it gets blown around. And the theory is aero bars are definitely faster in gravel. And if you're not in aero bars, it's because you're either behind somebody, or you got a strong tailwind, or it's really technical. And the first two of those, having flat bars doesn't matter versus drop bars, so it makes zero difference. And the third situation where it's really technical, which I'm going to get to here in a minute, flat bars are a huge advantage. And so the race starts off and we're riding into the headwind. It's about 15 mile an hour headwind, but I'm in a group, so I'm riding on the flat bars because it doesn't matter. I don't need to be aero. I'm not losing time because of I'm not in my hoods or my drops. I'm in a group, you know? And if I happen to get in the front of a pack of like 5-6 people, then I would drop into my aero bars. You don't want to be in aero bars in a group directly behind somebody, because there's no brakes up there. That's the only safety issue. You learn that real quick. Only in aero bar, if you're in a group, you're only in the aero bars if you're in front. And it works out fine. So then, okay, come on, let's go. So that was fine. And then the technical stuff. So we had a huge storm the night before, big storm, and what they call here a gully washer. And there was rubble and ruts and loose stuff and debris in places on the road, and a few spots where the ground was soft with mud. And so that's where it would get technical. And where it gets technical is exactly where flat bars, you have way more control over the bike. Came in handy. I need to fuel a little bit. Like big time. Like it was a huge advantage. So, for example, I'm bombing down this hill. It's actually happened twice. And it is rough with little gullies and ruts across the road from where the storm runoff had created channels in the road, and loose and at an angle. I don't know what my max speed was, but it was pretty high. And I was able to spread my hands out and get into flat bars on these descents. And guy in front of me was way in front of me, and all of a sudden he was right in front of me. And I was like, what? And he nearly wrecked. And then that's also where the bigger tires came in handy, was I felt like I had way more control. Oh, and back to the single speeding. What was funny was if you mountain bike a lot, you predict your gear before you need it. So you're about to hit a hill. Well, you go ahead and get into the right gear before you need it. That way you're not shifting, right? So something funny happened. It at least happened twice, where I was going through a turn and there was mud in the turn, and it was about to turn uphill, like a 90-degree turn. And I reflexively, instinctively shifted because my speed was going to carry me through the turn, but then I was going to immediately need to be in an easier gear if I had gear. So the bike shop, upon my request, left the shifter on. It's just not hooked up to anything. And it was funny. It's a thumb shifter. And it just, all of a sudden I realized it just like rolled through this clicks with no resistance, just click. And I was like, oh yeah, I was trying. You don't have any gear. You're gonna have to make this work with the gear that you got. That was really funny. But it was fine. So then there's parts where there's tree tunnels and it was really dark, and it was a mix. Usually that's at the low spot of soft mud that you could hit suddenly, and debris and whatever. So for those brief moments, I'd be out on the flat bars. So gravel's still hasn't found itself. It's constantly evolving. And oh yeah, if the gravel wasn't technical, or if I happened to be on pavement, but I was in the aero bars. And then these grips that are tapered, they turn your bars way more aero, the grips, instead of these round grips. So I didn't feel like I was being dragged down by the flat bars sticking out at all. It's a big, I did the math, like 10 to 20 watts reduction in drag to have ergonomic shaped tapered grips sticking out. And so if you happen to be in the aero bars. So I think If you ride with aero bars, and you should, and gravel, if they're legal for you, because it is faster and it's more comfortable, and your hands take so much abuse. Just notice people in front of me, like riding, shaking out their hands, you know, from the pain of the vibration. And it's like, dude, we're gonna have an epidemic of people as they get older that have hand nerve issues because they gravel raced without suspension, without aero bars for 20 years. So it preserves your hands, and then your hands are what gives you control over the brakes and shifting and all that stuff. So I'm not convinced that the future of gravel might be aero bars and flat bars, because holy crap, it's fast. As we're figuring out, fatter tires are faster. So my gravel bike, I've done 3 races now, all the same distance. And on my regular gravel bike with drop bars and aero bars, but skinnier tires, it took me about 4 hours. Okay. And the second race on the Nishiki, with aero bars, flat bars, geared, with nice plump tires on it. I had a mountain bike tire front and a 47, 48 on the rear. A 2.4 on the front and a 48 on the rear. Like 3 hours, 35 minutes. Big drop in time. And I only had eight gears, 8 speeds. And then this race, I had that same bike, fatter tires, everything, and single speed, and I went pretty much the exact same speed as I did on a regular gravel bike, but with skinnier tires and gears. So the thing is buying a flat bar gravel bike is kind of, there's not many of them. It's not the thing. A Specialized made one. Mine is a hybrid ATB. It's an all-terrain bike from the 90s. I just happen to be lucky that they built this bike that'll hold regular size wheels in it, like 700s, 29-inch wheels. Oh, so the race went down, just cruising along, and then it flattened out from mile 7 to mile 28, and I was just riding along, and we had a headwind, crosswind, and so I was either in the aero bars or drafting behind somebody in a group, so that ended up just fine. I did about 400 calories per hour. I carried all my water, and I ran out of water within sight of the top of the courthouse, which is the finish line. And I took special care to not hurt my back by riding pulling up on the pedals, and then a lot to add additional power, and then also climbing What would I do? Oh, riding, sitting up and no hands on occasion to stretch out my back. And then I noticed I was singing to myself and like doing finger guns at like cows, like bang, pow, what's up, cow, bang, like that. And that is a sign of fueling gone right. Look at all the flowers. Got pink ones, yellow. So, max cadence was 105. Average power was 212 normalized, which is fine. And then max power was like 600, something like that. My 20-minute power, because you have to cut, there's all this coasting. Oh, that doesn't really matter. It's like 220 or something like that. And then, but this is all again with not really trying all that hard. And then, like, I'm out running the next day. I'm fine. And then there was another cadence number. Oh, my average cadence was 62, but I think that includes coasting. Maybe, I don't know. So I'm really interested in what I end up doing with this bike, because it'll hold a double. Okay, I'm unsatisfied with the Vast. It's an all-road bike, which means the biggest it'll hold in the rear is a 42. And while it's light and it's drop bar, you know, the shifting's great and all that stuff, I might convert the Nishiki into my dedicated gravel bike, because it'll hold double front chainring, which means I can really, you know, have a high top end, high low end. And flat bar shifting stuff is cheaper, and it holds bigger tires. I could put a mountain bike tire in the front and a 48 in the rear. I want to get my hands on a Pathfinder 48, Pathfinder Pro. That was a really great tire. I don't think they're making them right now. And then because it's flat bar, I got control when I need it, and then I got aero bars when I don't. So we'll see, or I'll just keep, for the time being, I'm going to keep riding at single speed and see how long I go. There's going to be a video at some point where I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to gear this bike back up. Okay, that's it. And we're done. 6 miles. Good job, boy. See y'all later. Out.